Welcome back to Otaku Daikun. Dai here. Today we'll be continuing my guide through the Tsukihime Remake so that folks who can't speak Japanese can still enjoy this beautiful novel. This is really the start of the entirely original content featured in Ciel's route. Last we left off, Shiki diced up Arcueid, and rather than trying to deny it, he accepted his sin and fell into despair. Ciel came to his rescue, bolstering his will to live. Now that the dead apostle Vlov is terrorizing the city, Shiki lies to Arcueid, heading into Vlov's lair by himself. Shiki arrives at the station, staring down the department store that's supposed to connect to Vlov's underground lair. It's hard to believe that such a crowded place could hide such horrors. That said, this part of town has its share of shady rumors. According to Arihiko, there's a rumor that people can find a high-paying part-time job here, even though nobody has attested to actually getting the job. Shiki checks out each floor of the building, but doesn't find anything suspicious. Elevators only go up to the 7th floor, but he locates some stairs going even further up, leading to a blocked-off area. He uses his knife and his eyes to kill the lock on the door in order to access the 8th floor. Despite it being daytime, this area is almost entirely dark because the windows have been sloppily sealed off by iron plates. Beyond that, it's empty. This remains the case even as he explores the 10th floor. His snooping around is eventually noticed by two guys around his age holding flashlights. They talk like punk asses, but they aren't armed as far as he can tell. The two try to provoke Shiki, but he instead keeps his calm and pretends to be looking into that rumored part-time job. The punks notice Shiki's school uniform matches that of a girl they captured earlier, and so they promise to take him to the job site. They lead Shiki to an elevator that goes to the basement, explaining that he can get the job if he can spend the night there. After a long time, the elevator reaches its destination, and the doors open. The punks blast a floodlight and kick Shiki from behind, sending him falling 5 meters into a pool of water below. The room reeks of death and sewage, and the punks declare they've delivered some more food. The floodlight is too blinding for Shiki to see much of his surroundings, but when he swims to the shore of this stone dungeon, he hears footsteps. Drawn by the sound and lights of the elevator, a group of fellow prisoners rush to escape this hellhole, only to be caught and devoured by a horde of the dead. The punks in the suspended elevator rejoice as they watch the slaughter. Terrified, Shiki is unable to help the victims, as they're on the other side of the murky water. He can't reach the elevator either, so he flees into a dark tunnel. This corridor is coated with mutilated flesh, as if leading deeper and deeper into the depths of hell. Fittingly, at the other end is a literal prison, with bars sealing away more victims. The cell is filled with human remains, and any survivors can hardly be considered as such. Shiki's earlier conviction is all but gone, and he immediately realizes he has to escape. Ashamed, he bangs his head into the prison bars and becomes increasingly more irate about his situation. He felt like, just because he killed a couple of rabid dogs, he was ready to take on a vampire. It was foolish arrogance, but now that he's gotten himself into this mess, his only way out is to see it through to the end. Shiki gathers his will and proceeds further down the corridor. After navigating the winding path for some time, he comes to a clearing filled with more dead. He hesitates to proceed until hearing a woman crying out in the distance. Hoping to save her, he readies his knife and charges into the larger room. At the other end, he finds his teacher, Noelle, being pushed up against the wall by the dead. Since none of them are focused on him, Shiki has the chance for a surprise attack. Sadly, he lacks focus and misses the death line of his first target. Even if he misses their main lines, though, he's still able to slice through Dead's limbs easily. Noelle is in a total panic, surprisingly helpless as Shiki grabs her by the arm and starts escorting her back to safety. She can't believe he was able to chop those bastards up with just a knife, but she follows nonetheless as they head back into the tunnels. For someone whose job is to fight these things, she sure is hysterical, vocalizing her fears repeatedly to the point of annoyance. When she cries about wanting to go home and buy convenience store pudding, Shiki tells her to shut up or they'll attract more of the dead. Mid-sprint, he puts his hand over her mouth and she bites down on his finger. It hurts, but it keeps her quiet enough for them to escape. When it's clear the dead are no longer chasing them, he lets her talk again, explaining they should be safe. Still upset, Noelle pins Shiki to the wall and exclaims how she never asked for this. She was just trying to protect her students after one of the girls in their class fell for this part-time job rumor. How is she supposed to know there was a hellscape like this beneath a department store? She's even more concerned by how calm Shiki's being despite these horrors. Nobody sane should be able to accept all of this rationally. To calm her down, he reasons that it's because the two of them are good-natured people that they have to hold on to their humanity in the face of this crisis. As a teacher, she should try to hold herself together. Reluctantly, she sets aside her panic, her imminent danger, to assess the situation. He asks her to clarify how she wound up here, and she explains that she followed a student from their school and found herself caught by the same two punks who kicked him into the lair. This means the female student she followed must still be down here in need of rescue. The idea of going back to look for this student frightens Noelle, but her fear isn't enough to deter him. She protests, prompting him to ask her to stay behind while he goes. For her protection, he hands her his knife, claiming he'll figure something else out for his own defense. If he doesn't return, she is to try and escape on her own. Noelle finds this even more frightening, so she insists on following Shiki on his search. She returns the knife, claiming it wouldn't be enough for her anyway. Taken aback by his courage, she trusts him to take the lead. Quietly, the two continue to explore the tunnels in search of the girl. Sure enough, they come upon a tall, dome-like room, lit from sunlight leaking through a crescent-shaped gap in the ceiling. A stone slab the size of a bed is found directly below, upon which a young girl is laying unconscious. She is surrounded by around 30 of the dead, in what looks like a sacrifice to the altar. Noelle tries to convince Shiki there's still a chance to turn back and avoid fighting. Instead, he plans for the rescue, instructing Noelle to hide and get as close to the girl as possible without getting caught. He too moves in carefully, removing his glasses in preparation for combat. Good call, considering Noelle winds up knocking down a torch, alerting the dead. With their cover blown, Shiki runs forward, carving into the dead as he makes his way closer to the altar. He wakes the girl up and helps her stand. She's reasonably confused to receive help like this, but nonetheless follows Shiki's lead. Problem is, they're surrounded by the dead, and as he contemplates a way past them, Noelle breaks character and admits that even though things haven't gone according to plan, she's out of patience. In total contrast to her prior behavior, Noelle whips out her spear and leaps into the fray. While fighting the dead, she changes into her nun outfit, slashing about her enemies with a flirty confidence. Like a dance, she kicks and rips apart the dead, smiling as she kicks ass and even blows him a kiss. Noelle carves out an escape path, complaining about the fatty flesh sticking to her weapon. Shiki can't believe she's able to wield that iron halberd with her slim physique. Regardless, her defense becomes a slaughter. Even the dead that try to distance themselves get struck by Noelle's black keys, a variation that's less of a sword and more like iron spikes. Clearly, Noelle can hold her own, so Shiki remains by the student who nervously clings to him. Suddenly, he senses danger and notices that as Noelle slices up more and more enemies, their blood is beginning to fill into grooves on the altar. These grooves form a circular pattern around the center. Fearing it to be a spell activated by blood, the student calls out for Noelle to stop. By the time Noelle catches on, however, it's too late. From the ground, blue flames burst forth, engulfing her while fiery red claws grasp her from behind. The flames disperse to reveal Vlov clutching Noelle, his fangs ready for the kill. She panics in disbelief, paralyzed as Vlov makes his move. Shiki tries to come to her rescue, but fails to make it in time. The vampire's teeth sink into Noelle's neck, and he swallows her blood steadily, just like the poor woman at the hotel. Vlov relishes in Noelle's convulsions, paying no attention to Shiki whatsoever. This gives Shiki a fighting chance. Hold up, I want to point out something I find hilarious. As he charges in, his inner monologue literally says, "I'll kill you until you die." Even in Japanese, it's redundant. Shinumade koroshite yaru. Remember, folks, this is the Nasu-verse, where the double tap isn't just a suggestion, it's a requirement. Anyway, to prioritize Noelle's safety, he swings his knife to lop off Vlov's left arm, allowing her to drop away from her predator. Caught totally off guard, Vlov reaches his other arm to claw Shiki's face. While it's a fast reaction, Shiki sees it coming and ducks to the side, allowing the claws to graze his hair. Low to the ground, Shiki can't reach Vlov's neck, so he instead aims for a death line on the flank. It's not a direct hit, but it does irreversibly kill part of Vlov's body. Denying the rush of confidence from this, however, Shiki leaps back, remembering Vlov's flames. Rather than fire, though, Shiki feels a bitter chill freezing his ankles. He's escaped death for just a moment, but can no longer move as Vlov creeps toward him. On the verge of having his head crushed, Shiki is saved when a swarm of black keys come flying in from the side, chasing Vlov back. This is only a temporary fix, as Shiki still cannot move. Vlov responds by sending forth a surge of fire, causing Shiki to close his eyes. The flames don't strike, however, and when he opens his eyes, he witnesses the female captive standing before him, warding off the attack with an invisible barrier. Confidently, she instructs him to stay put until his leg can move again. To Shiki's amazement, the girl's face shifts, revealing that she's been Ciel the entire time. Getting serious, she puts on her glasses, which as we know raises intelligence. She had no intention of revealing her identity, but the situation has grown more extreme. This was all an elaborate ruse to drag Vlov out of hiding. Unafraid of the flames, Ciel explains that she and Noelle are a pair sent by the church. She affirms that it's easier if Shiki just stays put, as she'll take care of the rest. Sure enough, her barrier seems to do the job, forcing Vlov to call her out for deceiving him. Ignoring his complaint, she demands his name, wittingly stating it will make filing paperwork easier after she's through with him. He admits he doesn't have a designation, but has crossed the sea to Japan in search of revenge. Apparently this is suicidal, something vampires typically only do when their home is run out of food. Certainly hunger is Vlov's motive, but that's just a means to an end. We know he's trying to overcome the curse of his idea blood, hoping to find nourishment to stave off the agonizing frost. When Ciel remarks that she doesn't relate to Vlov's pain, the two return to combat. She taunts him, asserting he'll need to get hotter if he hopes to harm her. He responds with a blast of blue flames, much stronger than before, and yet Ciel doesn't seem concerned in the slightest. As Shiki begs her to run, she boasts that magical fire like his can't harm her body. By enduring the blast, she hopes to drain Vlov of his energy, and her theory appears true as Vlov appears exhausted. Shiki recalls his conversation at the hotel with Arcueid, discerning that flames aren't his true power. Shiki tries to warn Ciel, and as feared, Vlov's flames trickle out, shifting over to a deadly frost. The fires were only holding back a more threatening cold aura that explodes out from his body. Ciel, caught in the blizzard, is shocked to discover that yet another dead apostle ancestor has come to the same city. She lacks the proper equipment to handle these conditions, but she stays behind to give Shiki a chance to run, as a normal human won't last a minute in these conditions. Ciel's only chance to win is to close the 30-meter gap between her and Vlov. Adding insult to injury, though, Vlov calls upon more of his familiars, slowing her down as she has to cleave through minions impeding her charge. Even worse, these aren't just any dead, they're rigged to explode on Vlov's command, and in doing so, they destroy the room's stone pillars. With the ceiling about to come crashing down, Shiki decides to try and rescue Noelle, who is still collapsed on the floor. Her wound isn't fatal, so he hikes her up on his back and runs for the tunnels, but doesn't cover enough distance before the ceiling caves in. He tries to guard Noelle's body as the two of them are buried. Strangely enough, this is when Ciel's opening plays. Consider it an intermission in this heated battle. I swear, Renoa and Eme make the coolest friggin' music. Obviously, there wouldn't be any more story if Shiki died here, so he regains his consciousness in the dark. He and Noelle are smushed together, and she, returning to her flirty self, says she wishes they could stay like this longer. Interlocked with his teacher, he tries to wiggle free, but Noelle admits their predicament can't be helped. She was only able to erect a barrier for one person, so the two of them had to fit into a tight space together. Any excessive movement might cause the wreckage to tumble down on them. In this intimate enclosure, Noelle gives Shiki some information. Clearly, her real job is as a member for the burial agency. She says being a teacher was just a method to blend in, which she believes given she wasn't the most appropriate sensei. The same goes for Ciel pretending to be a student. When her work is done, she'll go where the church assigns her next. Regardless of who Ciel is, though, he still considers his savior for supporting him the night he killed Arcueid. Noticing him lost in thought, Noelle suggests that if he's low on oxygen, she can pass some of hers mouth to mouth. Despite her advances, he thanks her for protecting him, which makes her blush. Surely, Ciel must have used a similar method to survive the collapse, and she'll likely continue to fight Vlov. There's no way a cave-in would have taken out their target so easily. Noelle's plan is to stay like this until they're rescued by Japanese authorities. This bothers Shiki, not necessarily by the thought of embracing her for several more hours, but because he knows Vlov is still on the loose. Noelle understands, but argues he's too strong for the two of them to handle. Ciel, on the other hand, is special, so they should leave it to her. Taking advantage of the situation, Noelle puts Shiki's glasses back on him and tries to molest him, at least as much as she can without causing another cave-in. Again, just in the nick of time, Ciel comes to the rescue, removing the stone slab above them. Unenthused, she tells Noelle to knock it off and gives Shiki a look of disgust. Even so, she's a professional, getting straight to business by instructing Noelle to handle the police cover-up and requesting reinforcements. Not wanting to be on the front lines, Noelle is happy to have this task, fitting in one last flirt before running off. Left alone, Shiki can't think of how to speak to Ciel after what's happened. Sunset is upon them, which means Vlov will likely go on a rampage now that his lair is compromised. They're currently standing in a crater centered in a nearby park. Surely authorities would have responded by now, but the site is surprisingly vacant. That's because the church has influence over these kinds of disasters, and the collapse is being treated as a gas explosion. Very few people know the truth, and sadly that includes Shiki, a civilian. Thus, even though Shiki is grateful to Ciel for saving him, and she's genuinely glad he survived, she needs to erase his memory of what happened today. Just as she can implant memories, she can also remove them with her magecraft. Doing so will hurt, but it'll also let him return to a normal life. She tries to have him close his eyes, as that lessens the pain, but Shiki begs her to wait until tomorrow, as he still needs these memories. By promising not to get into any more danger, Ciel agrees to postpone the erasure until after her mission is complete. More than himself, though, he's worried that she'll try to fight Vlov alone, to which she assures him that she'll wait for reinforcements. She leaps away after telling him it's safe to go home. That said, he knows she's lying, that she'll proceed to fight anyway. As such, Shiki plans to tell Arcueid about what happened and returns to her condo. Arcueid is pissed at Shiki for not being there when she woke up, yet she admits she has no reason to be upset as long as he's back by sundown. The fact that she doesn't understand why she's upset makes her more upset, and she throws herself onto the bed in frustration. After she calms down, she agrees to talk with Shiki about what's been happening. She knew he wanted to go after Vlov on his own, but didn't think he'd actually do it. With that in the open, he's able to give a report of his journey through the lair, but as soon as he mentions the two church agents, her mood turns tense. She's clearly hostile about the church and doesn't want to hear anything about how they saved him. This turns into a full-on tantrum where she expresses he should be relying on her instead, since she's stronger. Naturally, Shiki wants to finish Vlov off in a weakened state, and while Arcueid admits that's a good idea, she doesn't feel like helping. She's no longer interested in Vlov, wanting to leave him to the church instead. She doesn't want to waste her strength on an opponent the church will defeat even without her. As far as she's concerned, both of them are enemies, and she doesn't mind having them fight each other. Regardless, knowing how important this is to Shiki, she proposes an agreement. She'll defeat Vlov if Shiki agrees to do something for her in return, but she won't say just what that favor is until afterward. Without much choice, he agrees to these terms, lifting her spirits. Excited, she heads out right away, rushing into the hallway as he tries to strategize. The plan is simple: get to Vlov before the church can. It should be easy now that Arcueid knows Vlov's idea blood. She'll restrain him so that Shiki can use his eyes to finish the job. Arcueid drags Shiki across the city rooftops, stopping on a skyscraper with the best view of the battlefield. They observe the destroyed park and find it covered in mist, dotted with black keys stabbed into the ground. Arcueid explains these keys have formed a barrier trapping Vlov, a barrier so powerful that ordinary vampires would be crushed beneath its weight. Despite it being frozen, the barrier still stands, and when the mist clears, they see it as a large cubic structure in the center. Noelle is pacing back and forth nervously around it. It appears Ciel has sealed Vlov into a space called the Great Temple, where the two can fight, and their battle has already started inside of it. Suddenly, Arcueid no longer wants to help. She has a special grudge against Ciel of all people, and refuses to get involved, even though losing the fight would cause the box to burst open, instantly freezing much of the city. She tells Shiki it's better for him to just stay where she can protect him from that. Like a spoiled brat, she ignores the lives of the citizens, saying that if they die, it's just survival of the fittest. For once, Shiki has every right to yell at her, calling her a stupid, selfish vampire that doesn't care about humans. Since she insists on throwing a tantrum, he runs off on his own, sprinting down the skyscraper stairs, angry for even thinking he could trust a vampire like her. He reaches the elevator and takes it to the ground level, putting aside his fears in order to assist Ciel. Outside, he leaps into the collapsed park and heads straight toward the Great Temple. As he draws near, he can spot Ciel and Vlov in the heat of combat. Within the box is a torrential blizzard, colder than -100 degrees Celsius. Vlov fights with his ice lance and sharp icicles, deflecting bullets fired by a powered-up Ciel. Clad in skin-tight battle armor, she fires continuous rounds from the Holy Scripture Blaze, a church weapon fashioned into an assault rifle. By sealing this blizzard into the Great Temple, Ciel is able to protect the city at the cost of making the battle harder on herself. To endure the unearthly cold, she wears conceptual gear called Torture Instrument Virgin Pain, based on the Iron Maiden torture device. In the Dark Ages, people used to put damsels into Iron Maidens, claiming that if they survived being trapped within, they were witches. But if they died, they were human. Conceptually, it's a trap that can only be removed upon death, which can also be interpreted as, so long as you wear this armor, you cannot die from external forces. Those who have played the original Tsukihime know that Ciel is basically immortal, so her body is able to endure the armor's curse, and the armor itself prevents her from being frozen. This allows her to fight Vlov unimpeded, but it won't do her any good if she can't actually finish him off. Staying on the defensive isn't helping, as a swarm of icicles strike her from all sides, knocking her rifle away. If she tries to retrieve it, she'll be leaving herself open to an attack from behind. Vlov's lance, which he inherited when he devoured his former master, conceptually has nothing it can't break, so a direct hit would definitely shatter her armor. Thankfully, Ciel anticipated this could happen, and rather than trying to reclaim her rifle, she conjures another holy scripture, Bloodloss Blade, a 7-fanged greatsword she can use to fight Vlov's lance. The two engage in brutal melee combat, with Ciel's sword sawing into Vlov's body, inflicting several fatal wounds that would have killed him if he weren't an immortal vampire. This sword is devastating when swung, but can also be used as a serrated whip, as its 7 sections split apart. Surprisingly, however, Vlov recognizes Ciel's fighting style is that of the dead apostle ancestor Beze, the sword monk. He suspects her to have been a student of Beze's, as he too studied under the sword monk. Admittedly, this revelation is quite jarring, especially for Tsukihime newcomers who don't know Ciel's past. The remake elaborates on Ciel's past a bit more, as she performs certain feats gained by claiming the idea blood from other Dead Apostle ancestors. In this case, Vlov is referring to the Dead Apostle Beze, a vampire known for his deadly sword techniques. Ciel previously fought and defeated Beze, learning his sword style before stealing his idea blood. Keep this in mind for later parts of this route, as Ciel uses an ability derived from this idea blood. Their fighting intensifies, and knowing her techniques gives Vlov a second wind. Gaining an upper hand, he hopes to wound her to the point where she can no longer maintain the barrier. From the outside, Shiki can see the barrier deteriorating. He consults the panicking Noelle for a better understanding of the situation. She has absolutely no confidence that one of the 27 Dead Apostle ancestors can be defeated in one-on-one combat, even if it's Ciel on the other end. This was just a preventative measure that is about to fail on them. Shiki, however, is confident that, if it weren't for the blizzard, Ciel would have won by now. All she needs is one extra push to claim victory, so he takes off his glasses and tries to help out, but can't possibly enter the barrier without freezing to death instantly. Thus, Shiki is left to watch as Vlov impales Ciel upon his lance. With that, the barrier swells, ready to explode. It shatters, and while they should all be engulfed by the blizzard, it's surprisingly tolerable. Confused, Shiki looks up toward the skyscraper and spots Arcueid raising her hand, somehow suppressing the frost. She's reluctantly made an opening for Shiki to enter the fray, even if only for a few minutes. He runs to Ciel's body, which lay buried in the rubble. Thankfully, she isn't bleeding, and it was just her armor that shattered. As he tries to wake her up, Vlov begins to approach them very slowly. While the cold is his principle, it severely limits his mobility. Ciel comes to and is shocked to see Shiki being so reckless despite his earlier promise. He tells her they can deal with that later, and he tries to lift her up, only to realize she's really heavy. Embarrassed, she says he's just too weak and begs him to run away. He explains, though, that he has to fight because so long as Vlov remains alive, fleeing is only a temporary salvation. They have no choice but to kill Vlov while they still can. Still stubborn, Ciel tells Shiki he has no reason to fight, and so he defiantly tells her to give him a reason, a reward, like being treated to a handmade lunch once the battle's over. It's a ridiculous idea, but she ultimately accepts, giving him 2 rules to follow. First, he can't attack Vlov directly from the front, and second, he shouldn't worry about her, as she can hold her own. In agreement, Shiki's eyes meet Vlov's, and each of them acknowledge the other as a genuine threat. The battle resumes, and Ciel handles the frontal assault with her sword so that Shiki can sneak in from the sides. Vlov is no longer just a bloodthirsty vampire, but a knight in the heat of a fatal encounter. Sandwiched between 2 opponents, Vlov is able to ward off both of them with his polished technique. Still, Ciel keeps Vlov focused mainly on her, giving Shiki the chance to scan for death lines. Among them, he sees not only lines, but points, and by staring into them, he gleams part of Vlov's past. Vlov was a former knight, exiled from his kingdom and forced to travel the frozen ocean. He was taken in by a dead apostle ancestor, a woman who converted him into one of her own. While grateful, he ultimately betrayed her and inherited her idea blood. Shiki's eyes see all of this, understanding the true nature of his opponent. Somehow, Vlov can tell what Shiki has seen and shifts his focus to attack. To protect Shiki, Ciel grabs him from behind and creates some distance while retrieving her rifle. Shiki's reached his limit and only has one more chance to end things. Ciel understands, and the two make a final charge for victory. As Shiki advances, Ciel covers him by shooting down Vlov's icicles. That just leaves the spear. Ciel attacks from above, while Shiki attacks from below, forcing Vlov to pick who to target. Choosing Shiki as the greater threat, Vlov readies his lance, unable to react as Ciel strikes down on him with her blade. This halts Vlov's lance, but he's still able to release one last icicle that pierces Shiki's shoulder. Enduring the hit, Shiki pushes through and penetrates Vlov's death point. Shockingly, this doesn't kill Vlov. Instead, it kills Vlov's principal as a dead apostle ancestor. The bastard's mortal body still stands, and uses this chance to take revenge upon Shiki. Before he can, however, Ciel takes her blade and transforms it into a pile bunker. She runs the shaft straight through Vlov's chest, crushing his torso as he curses her. He is helpless as she performs her baptism rite, extinguishing him once and for all. Bleeding, Shiki collapses onto the ground. Ciel runs to him and is relieved to know he's still alive. He admits that while it was frightening, he pushed through anyway. Joking around, she asks him what scares him more, this or his sister. Shiki tries to act tough, which Ciel just finds to be cute. When he expresses pain, though, she starts to treat his wounds seriously. He begins to lose consciousness, and so she gently whispers goodnight. From outside the damage zone, what appears to be a spider familiar watches over the scene. In the aftermath, Mario and his team from the church arrive to assist with the cover-up. They observe as a rescue team digs through the catacombs in search of survivors. Mario doesn't mind letting the police handle the dirty work, confident that any discoveries made will be written off as rumors. So long as nobody higher up knows the truth, everyone below can speculate as they like. He likens it to the way his grandfather is delegating things. For a boy who appears to be 12 years old, he's surprisingly authoritative. Just to be safe, though, Mario orders his subordinate Ando to dispose of any incriminating evidence. Mario then asks his other subordinate, Carius, how much he knows about Ando. Apparently, Yugo Ando has a complicated history. Despite working for the church, he once tried to expose a corrupt priest, only to be exiled to Japan after his lover betrayed him for money. He seems to struggle with finances, taking out loans rather frequently. Mario's surprised how much Carius can recall, and orders him to get along with his colleague. Mario's attention then turns to Noelle, who's trembling in the corner. It's their first meeting, and Noelle instantly recognizes his name. Within the church, the Pope is supported by 128 cardinals. Chief among them is Cardinal Laurentis, a high-ranking priest known for having various illegitimate children. Mario is one of the Cardinal's grandchildren, and so he inherits considerable authority as well, being put in charge of the Roa case despite his age. As an elite, he tends to talk down to everyone, which doesn't help Noelle's already panicked demeanor. He's bothered by her cowardice, how she ran away during the fight to save her own skin. He threatens to report her to the papacy and have her executed by the guillotine. Devastated, Noelle grovels at his feet, begging for forgiveness, explaining that Vlov wasn't their assigned target and that she fled on orders to request backup. Turns out Mario doesn't even have that kind of authority and was just being a dick, but he asserts he would have her killed if he could. Church executors aren't highly ranked, but they do have the luxury of acting on their own autonomy. Thus, he suggests they work together on the case. He's not literally her boss, but as a high-ranking priest, it'll be in her best interest to flirt up to him, as he can pass on a good word to his granddaddy. If she ever wants a promotion, she'd better shake her ass and obey. Noelle doesn't get along with church officials, so this proposal makes her hesitate. Mario degrades her lack of enthusiasm, asking if she's an ungrateful pig. She feigns excitement and timidly asks if Ciel will get a promotion for slaying Vlov. Again, Mario insults her, elaborating that executors don't get better ranks for what they kill, no matter the threat. After all, this isn't the first time Ciel has defeated one of the Dead Apostle ancestors. She's actually killed 3 before this, the first 2 being Forest and Castle. Noelle seems both amazed and offended to hear this. Now, I bet you're wondering just who these Dead Apostle ancestors are. When Mario says Forest and Castle, he's referring to the principles. The curse they carry is one of the Dead Apostle ancestors. As far as I can gather, we don't know jack about the Forest Apostle, but the Castle one is a dude named Cromclay Petastructure, a new character to the remake. Prior to the events of the story, Ciel defeated this ancestor and claimed their Idea Blood Cathedral, which was a bounded field in the form of a giant wall that encloses the outside world. I'm almost certain this is the ability Ciel used to seal Vlov's blizzard. When she uses it, it's an alternate form called Gothic Fort Cathedral, which is a conceptual barrier that captures a single target, distorting the space within to be larger or smaller than the barrier's actual size. Nifty. It's easy to see that the remake has bolstered the powers and arsenal of both Ciel and Arcueid, making the fights crazier than ever before. Back to the narrative, Mario is using his position in the church to manipulate Noelle into cooperating, even though she has no obligation to. He sends her home with Carius, and speaks to Ando about Vlov's remains. Ciel made sure there was no trace of Vlov's soul, nor his retainers. This upsets Mario, perhaps because he wanted clues. He then orders Ando to take over, while he goes and pays an acquaintance, a true ancestor, a visit. As he leaves, Ando questions what kind of scandal it is for a priest to be in contact with a vampire. Holy crap! So this remake is split into chapters, 1 or 2 for each of 13 to 14 days in the story. This entire video takes place within just one of those days, which goes to show just how dense Ciel's route really is. As such, I may wind up making more videos for Ciel than I did for Arcueid, but I think you guys will appreciate that, since there's more new content than before. I'd rather give each moment the coverage it deserves. For that to happen, though, I need your support. Be sure to share these videos on social media, and leave a like and comment to help with the algorithm. I hope you look forward to the next installment soon. Before I go ahead and roll the credits, I want to give a vocal shout out to all my $10 plus supporters: Video Gamer 75, Samuel Gersten, Stephen Elak, Jens Bauman, RNGer Shuffles 1498, Josh, and SF Giants fan Mike. Thank you all so much. Thanks for watching.
If you enjoy this channel, help us grow by liking, commenting, sharing the video, subscribing to Otaku Daikun, and
most of all, smashing that notification bell so you don't miss out on all of our anime discussion, lore, or Let's Play content.
You can support us directly through Patreon, Subscribestar, or our YouTube membership, all of which come with benefits like exclusive vids and early access.
As always,
celebrate your fandom!